Do we have anything to drink? Probably not. Great. Zero viewers, bro. No one cares. Life is great. See? Only making the title even more true. The title is I put the title that for a reason. I think this time I'm actually done.
So, does that guy Nick always act like that?
You can hardly blame him. He is my boyfriend.
You mean, was your boyfriend?
Is my boyfriend.
But, what about us?
What about us?
Well, this afternoon, in your dressing room.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Top 10 scary videos that scare your pants off.
If you're already not wearing pants while watching this video, then you're one step ahead of the rest of us, because these top 10 scary videos
This shit's so fucking stupid. The funny part is, no, I'm not wearing pants. I'm wearing shorts.
Every day, scientists find new species in the Amazon, but this isn't one of those findings. Published by Erwin Saunders in June of 2021, this man who is well in tune with nature is passing his time in these beautiful green woods when he comes across a creepy species that is not so usual. As Saunders wanders the forest, he encounters a small figure amongst the foliage. It looks like a mini extraterrestrial. First, it gazes up in the tree, and after a bird tweets, it seems startled and moves quickly away. The creature doesn't look like any animal species we know. In fact, it looks pretty humanoid. Have you seen anything like this creature out in the wild? If not,
4 minutes
keep
in,
your eyes
0
peeled
people.
next time you wander
4
through the
minutes.
forest.
And nobody got the notification yet, I guess?
Further, I want to talk about this video's sponsor, Raycon. Let's face it, wireless earbuds are the future, and they're so much more convenient than their wired counterparts. And that's why I use my everyday earbuds exactly as the name suggests. The YouTube community, my friend
4 minutes.
Brazil helped me
It took a whole 5 minutes for somebody to join. Whoever's here, I do appreciate it, though. And they're gone. Do people really care? Do people give a fuck? No. Somebody joined and left. That goes to show how much people care.
We got some good tunes and a total disregard for public safety. You're right. Okay. So
Trying to watch videos that might possibly cheer me up or entertain me.
When it comes to cheese slices, choose the one that makes mouths water. The one that's irresistible. The one that's 100% real natural cheese. Sargento.
There was just as much action behind the scenes as on screen, with camera people running around and intense visual effects being produced live. The Glass Stones ending definitely caught us off guard, but the process to capture the way it surprised Yeon Se-byuk and Sang-woo was an extensive one. Filming, the actors only had a small amount of glass explode near them. The slow motion feeling really comes through in how the actors perform. After capturing shots of the trio, each got to do their close-up work with singles as well. It may be a short moment, but plenty of hours were put into capturing every nuance and angle. When time came for the big visual of the glass stepping stones we see exploding, the team didn't resort to CGI for the shards of glass, except for the ones that appear to harm the players and fly towards the camera. They actually went ahead and created the whole sequence in studio. These practical effects look unreal on the set. It's no surprise it translates to such a powerful and stunning visual in the episode.
Hello, players. Let me welcome you all to the 5th game.
The cast of Squid Game dove right in when playing Glass Stepping Stones and definitely didn't have it easy, since for many, it was actually terrifying to film. While CGI came into play in terms of establishing the setting and just how high in the air the players were, much of the carnival-like set was fully built, even the glass. Fortunately, no one actually went through shattering glass, instead landing on a board supported by crew to allow the actor to fall safely. In the show, the set that Red Light, Green Light takes place on already seems awfully crowded with the nearly 500 players, but on the set, there were even more folks, making it a pretty chaotic yet well-organized space. We would have thought CGI was used to add the bodies of those who lost during the game, especially the piles of people at the doors, but the actors all actually stayed wherever they were when they lost the game, which couldn't have been very comfortable. When it came to filming close-ups, multiple cameras were used to capture the performances, and the filming crew was often running along with the players. The added detail of using a red marker to signal when a person took a shot is evident of just how thorough and meticulous the team was. No one could get away with cheating during the game either. If one person moved out of time, we're looking at you, Sang-woo, then everyone had to start over. The performers did not have it easy playing the often physically demanding games when filming the series, since they really were going through the struggle depicted on screen. The sweat, effort, and even chained handcuffs securing them to the rope were real. There definitely couldn't be much movement between takes, since everyone was literally tied up together. With a scene like this, there isn't really any other way to do it than at 100%. Maybe one of the most terrifying, gasp-worthy moments in the show is seeing Yeon hanging between safety and the end of the game for his whole team. The tension is real, even though the platform they were on was just a meter and a half off the ground. While swinging on a rope is usually pretty fun, this collective rope swing down tells a very different story and shows just how far the actors and production went to bring the best footage to the screen. After the most intense tug-of-war we've ever seen is so still, but we can see just how exhausted each and every actor is, having just struggled and fought for their lives, literally. This shot is definitely needed as a moment of pause after the insane game just played, resulting in so many lives lost. This is also a bit of a moment of reckoning. This was hard, but whatever was next would only be harder, and they knew it.
You know what? I really thought we were going to die out there.
For the final face-off, the soundstage was a lot emptier with just Gion and Sang-woo competing. But there were many camera people, often filming using handheld video cameras to capture all the frantic action. Not only that, their crew made it rain, making the whole scene just as dramatic as the gruesome fight we see in the final cut. As filming went on, the two actors only got more disheveled, with rain soaking through and blood effects added throughout the battle. In order to get all the footage they needed, the actors had to be on point at every moment.
I won't let you leave your family.
The honeycomb scenes looked pretty similar on set as they did in the show. With the exception of the childlike drawn wallpaper, the rest of the set was filled with giant playground equipment and the smell of freshly made dalgona, the Korean honeycomb sweet. Luckily, the actors didn't have to listen to the actual loud noise each time a bullet was fired, as someone on set was in charge of giving a shout to indicate the moment instead, so the performers had a solid, unified cue to react to. Behind the scenes, we get a glimpse of just how hands-on the director was when it came time to shoot. Surprisingly, the cavernous, cool space where we see the confrontation between the police officer and a team member of the Squid Game is real. The opening on the top of the cave and the murky pool made the ideal setting. No doubt the actors felt totally immersed in the story. Shooting these scenes were pretty simple. All we needed were a couple of cameras, the right costumes, and the actors' chilling performances.
You want to die?
The glimpses we get of the players' lives before the game offer such a colorful backstory, especially when we see them with their families. Each of these scenes were shot quite intimately and simply, focusing on the narrative and what these relationships meant to the players, which translated to the screen beautifully. It's also one of the only times we get to see a typical everyday aesthetic, making the stark contrast between the real world and the Squid Game world even more apparent.
So which color do you want to play as?
How could we forget the original Squid Game? Filming this scene may have been one of the simplest setups, using an existing playground space. It only adds to the realism of the show and offers a great reminder of where the players started, as innocent children playing games for fun instead of their lives.
I felt as if I owned the entire world.
Hanging out in the dorms between games certainly wasn't any less stressful than the games themselves. The bare-bones set with the cool industrial edge just the trick, and the feeling of the daunting space comes through the screen. What we saw in the show was almost exactly what was happening on set, with all the added cameras and crew people, of course.
Can't fall asleep to this, okay? Who knows what someone else is in charge of?
Many moments in the Marbles game bring intense connection and emotion. The way they shot these scenes was a pretty stark difference from so many of the large and intense games. The fact that the actors were in a small space together with just a few crew members around really helps the intimacy come through, and offers us the chance to get up close and personal with these characters, and the short but meaningful relationship they have playing marbles.
We're going out with us. I'll take all the marbles.
One of the reasons the Marbles game is so effective is because of how well the setting transports us to the alleys of a small village. It makes sense that this is the set the team spent the most time building. Every detail, down to the stunning backdrops, moves us. It's no surprise they got the performances they did. The authenticity of this world is remarkable.
My wife and I with this one here.
The use of practical effects, CGI, and incredible actors really went a long way in making the production so high caliber. Fortunately, the actors didn't really have to go ahead.
It's time for Uno Attack! It's classic Uno with lights and sounds that will get your heart pounding. You never know when fun will attack. It's round after round of fast fun that packs a punch until someone yells, it's Uno Attack, the game, errors not included.
What should we do? Begin with us here.
Squid Game may have reached global success, but along the way they made some changes. Some that went well, and others that have only garnered more criticism.
When did you realize the show became so big?
You're lying now.
When Squid Game came out and its popularity began to rise, one would think that the hard work was over, but that wasn't the case with the Netflix hit. The show faced serious backlash because the numbers used on the Squid Game business cards were real and belonged to some residents in South Korea. If those people didn't know what Squid Game was before, they definitely knew when their phones were blowing up with messages and phone calls from fans of the K-drama. A dessert shop owner in South Korea saw the effect Squid Game had on fans pretty directly. Her business number was one of the few shown on screen in the show. She started getting endless phone calls 24 hours a day. It's not all jokes though. Some of the callers were actually asking to be part of the game or just to express their anger and yell. The shop owner had over 4,000 different numbers trying to reach her, clogging up her business line and affecting her sugar-free sweet bean jelly sales. Another number belonged to a man who received so many calls and messages that his phone was regularly dying throughout the day. Not only that, he couldn't even get any of the calls or messages that were actually meant for him. While Netflix worked quickly to edit and cut scenes where the real phone numbers appeared, for some reason, they do still make the screen for Australian viewers. Once the show had finished filming, the time came for it to be dubbed over in different languages. One of the actors who performed the English dubbing was a big fan of the fact that all his castmates were either of Korean or Asian heritage, which turned out to be a huge plus when they were recording in the studio. As they came across some inconsistencies and mistranslations throughout the script, they took a moment to bring it to the production crew and change the already written script. The cast did a great job at bringing clarity to the scenes. Korean actors, even if not fluent, can call out something if it's not right, is how Edward Hong, who did the dubbing for the priest character, put it. He had a better understanding of specifically how certain people would speak, like the religious character he portrayed, meaning he was able to tell us something didn't quite click. Dubbing is a very specific skill on its own, since the actors need to vocally match the on-screen performance and visuals. So to be able to change dialogue on the go is really raising the bar. While loads of people around the globe love Squid Game, not everyone is a fan of what turned out to be some pretty misleading subtitles when it came to the English version on Netflix. Translating a show from its original language is a tricky job, and unfortunately, in the case of Squid Game, many of the subtleties and meanings were lost in translation, which does do quite a disservice to the original writer who put together such a tight script. Not only that, English dubbing and the English subtitles also have variations between them, making it a pretty strange watching experience.
I'm better than you think, and I'm stronger than most guys too.
Number 212's character was majorly impacted by this. The English translation we get is,
I'm not a genius, but I still got it working.
when in reality, she's saying, I'm very smart, I just had a chance to study. The meanings are pretty different, and the actual line also works as a reference to a trope of characters with smarts, but not a whole lot of money, that's regularly seen in Korean television. These changes from the original script didn't work out so well.
I'll do anything you tell me. I'm not a regular girl.
Episode 1 of Squid Game is called Red Light, Green Light, but in Korean it's a very different story. The original title of the episode translates to The Day That the Mugunga Flower Blossomed, a play on the name of the game in Korea. It's a long but beautiful title, and it definitely isn't even close to the English one we got. What makes this really frustrating is that we lose a lot of cultural significance since the Mugunga flower symbolizes beginnings, and is the national flower of Korea. Depending on who you're talking to or where you are, Squid Game can also be referred to as Round 6. It's even the official title of the show on IMDb. Round 6 was the name the show was called when Netflix announced the production in 2019. But when it was time to launch the show, they went with the title we've all come to hear so often. What we see on screen in the subtitles and what we hear are two very different things when it comes to the English translations. If watching the show in Korean, the English subtitles don't feature a small but significant line in which Player 1 says, "There is no ownership between me and you." The fact that the subtitles were changed not to include it deeply affects how we interpret this. Definitely not a great change. On the road to worldwide success, Netflix's Squid Game definitely hit some speed bumps with the data leaking and misleading translations, but it hasn't held back the team at all. In fact, one change made on the go brought one of the greatest small moments in the show. Guillaume picking up Sae-byok's coffee cup was total improv. Considering it took 10 years for the show to actually get made, it seems like all the time, money, and effort was definitely worth it. What would you do if your number was the one featured on Squid Game?
You don't know how long
Can we create the beauty? This future lies in nature. 59% of the ingredients we use in our products are from plant origin. Create the beauty that moves the world. L'Oréal.
you're out of here. And don't you try to harm me. Never learned anything the same way to me. I want you to leave my son alone. He's a good kid. He's just having a tough time right now. Okay? I knew I could count on you, Miss.
The show has taken the world by storm, and after watching it 3 times since its release, we've come across some mind-blowing details in it that make it even better. Heavy spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen it, then I'm putting a red light on the video right now. If you enjoyed the breakdown, then please smash the thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe to videos like this each and every day. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our Squid Game breakdown. Okay, so the opening of Squid Game may be confusing at first. You watch as the convoluted rules are explained and see kids play it, who are of course Gi-hun and Sang-woo. This flashback is key as it foreshadows how the game will end, which was of course with a Squid Game. We jump forward to an adult Gi-hun, who we learn is a lifelong gambler that's always betting on the wrong horse. Due to his addiction and need to make his life better, he's actually the perfect person to participate in the games. The idea of him betting on horses of course foreshadows the future, as it's explained to him that Squid Game is very much the same thing, just with people being the ones that are better. In a way, he's similar to the Southern Gentleman VIP, who keeps picking the wrong contestant. This would foreshadow Junho's death at the hands of the frontman, as the VIP would say, I always pick losers. He picked Junho to pleasure him, only for the character to turn around and attack him. Junho was then caught out in this quote-unquote game of life and death, and he's apparently killed. Though I am still #Junho is still alive. Now Gi-hun uses the lucky numbers of 6 and 8 to win, which they do. However, these numbers appear many times in the show. They always represent the middle of the herd in a race, and the numbers also appear in this fashion just before the bridge challenge. As one of the VIPs explains, everyone goes for the middle, and that is to find safety when threatened. It's better to stay amongst the people instead of taking it on risks, so that strategy also proves to be very, very stupid. 6 also appears again, as there are 6 games that take place over 6 days, and the religious player would later choose the number 6 as it represents the day God made humans and Christianity. Funnily enough, Gi-hun won 4.56 million at the horse track, and this moment is just some amazing attention to detail. Now Sae-byok does end up helping Gi-hun later on in the bridge game, and this may be her paying him back after she pickpockets him early on.
YouTube.
Gi-hun's nice nature would be foreshadowed, as even after being chased by violent long sharks, he would help her when he thought she simply fell over. And these long sharks offer some interesting parallels when they threaten Gi-hun's kidney. This is similar to how the body parts of the losers in the game would be harvested off, and it lends weight to the theory that they're all actually working for Ilman. Down on his luck, he needs 10,000 won for a present for his kid, which is the same money he gave as a tip
Thank
for
you.
betting Shock Teller. This figure would be constant for Gi-hun, as after winning the game and having billions, he withdraws just 10,000 won. The prize itself is in a box similar to those that the dead bodies are kept in, and it makes for an amazing Easter egg in this scene. Now, Unfortunately, due to his
Gotta
money
save the
problems,
world.
Gihan
Can't even
cannot
save
afford
myself.
to give his daughter a fancy dinner. She's given what
I
her
hate my
mother
life.
perceives as junk food, and
I
says
really
how
do.
her stepfather bought her steak dinner, which puts further pressure on him to get money. Gihan's status was too low to afford it, but he would finally be able to have a fancy dinner before the final game, but it was just as miserable as this one. So from here, his paths cross with the Squid Game recruiter, who gives him two options. Gihan can either play as red or blue, and though it seems like a pretty shallow choice, there may be other layers to it. He chooses blue and ends up as a player, but the red card is very similar to the colour of the guards' uniforms. Now, whilst the guards seem like they're in control, they're forced to obey the rules and also killed for even showing their faces. They sleep in cells and are given numbers too, so it is possible that they're all part of the operation, just like the players. The game theme is kept up throughout the guards' CCTV terminals, as they're shaped like sit-down arcade cabinets. In the series, we learn that it's been about 33 years of games so far, so it makes sense that Ilnam would get this inspiration from the popular arcades of yesteryear. The guard symbols also have a lot of connections to gaming, with the triangle, circle, and square reminding me of a PlayStation controller. Each shape does have meaning too, as circles are workers, triangles are soldiers, and squares are the managers. The amount of angles on your helmet also denote your hierarchy as well, with no shapes being the lowest tier. The front line has many contours.
Before I watch all this, I just want. I already. Squid Games is just a very predictable things. Things in general, movies and media and video games were just always very predictable for me. I'm really smart and I just know. But I'm watching this just in case if there is anything that I may have missed. Fuck me.
If you're paying $20 a pill for Viagra, you're getting taken to the cleaners. Our pill delivers the exact same results for less than $3.
The VIPs have a ridiculous amount, right up to the Southern gentleman, who appears to have the highest out of all of them, which is why he can do what he wants. Elam's mask also has a massive amount on them. We'll talk about that later on in the video. Now, squares, circles, and triangles also appear throughout the series at numerous points. When the group play red light, green light, we can see them above the gate at the door. Next to the gates are fake metal windows, and these are made up of the shapes circles, triangles, and squares. The card also has the shapes on them, and the layout of Squid Game is of course made up of squares, circles, and triangles. When Ilnam visits his quote-unquote house in the marbles game, you can also catch the shapes on the gates outside of it, further hinting to him being the one who's behind it. Now back to the game, and the idea of people playing with their bodies is set up here, as every time that Gihan loses, he gets a painful slap, but if he wins, he gets money. Now I'm not sure how lucky Gihan is getting the chance to play a game for billions, as I'd have knocked right out of there just seeing the creepy doll for red light, green light. However, if the series hasn't ruined your life, you can visit the doll at Macallan Horse Carriage Museum. Now, speaking of people whose lives have been ruined, the guy whose number is on the card has also complained that he's received non-stop calls since the show aired, and I feel so sorry for him. Now, with his winnings with the recruiter, Gihan heads off to treat his mother, which is reminiscent of how Sang-woo would ask Gihan to give his mother money before he ended his life in the final game. Gihan goes to get picked up, and the password is red light, green light, which foreshadows the first game. Upon waking up, Gihan realizes that his number is 456, signifying that he's the lowest there, with Ilnam, the game's architect, being number 1. Ilnam even translates to first man or number 1 man, giving us an indication of his status. The prize money is of course divisible by Gihan's number, and this gives us a further clue to 1 being in charge. Gihan didn't pick up on him saying he knew what was going on, and he underestimated him instantly, much like how we all did. The pair also meet with Gihan standing over Ilnam.
I did not underestimate the old man.
Which mirrors the final scene that the two share together. Now inside the room with all the beds, we get a clue on the walls as to what each game will actually be. However, in a dark twist of fate, the clues only fully start to reveal themselves when people die after red light, green light. However, we see every single game on the wall, which with the final one being the Squid Game. Now, music is a prominent part of the show, with the song Blue Danube being before and after each and every game. This piece of music by Johann Strauss II was commissioned and later urged to be light and upbeat, as his nation Austria had lost to Prussia in the Seven Years' War. This was intended to keep players upbeat before and after the slaughter, much like the citizens of Austria after that conflict.
Cold as shit. The cameras, my friend. My phone loves me, my PS4 loves me, my pillow loves me. I have friends.
Other parts of the preamble before going to the game are the cartoony bright-coloured stairs, which are some of the images created by M.C. Escher. His work of infinite and rocky stairs symbolises the monotony of climbing up for nothing. It matches up here as the contestants are in a loop, and also most of the time climbing up for nothing. Now, Ilnam is the key in the red light, green light game, as he smiles, showing he's happy and more alive than ever. We know he was in hospital, as that's where he would later be picked up from, but unlike the other contestants, he will not be gassed. He is smiling as it's probably the last time he will play one of his favourite games, and he's enjoying being a participant instead of a watcher. The creepy girl robot has a Squid Game called Hairpin in her hair, and we are treated to another hint that Ilnam is special, as he's not scanned by her. Each of the players gets a green overlay indicating that they're a target. However, Ilnam is completely fine and probably not in any danger. Interestingly, the person directly next to him isn't highlighted either, and it is possible that he has a protective ring around him so that the machine can't even fire close to him in case it kills him by accident. And the father-son-esque relationship between Ilnam and Gihan is one of the most enthralling parts of the show. When they aren't helping each other, they are always incredibly close and finishing games by seconds. It happens in the red light, green light game with Ilnam glowing to beat him, but it would later reverse in marbles with Gihan taking the net. His deathbed is where the final game between the two takes place, and Gihan would beat him with seconds to go as the character passes away. Though we will never know if he knew that he lost the game, it doesn't matter, as this final scene shows that people will help one another, and that there is decency beyond what he believed. It also paints the two as opposites, and sets up Gihan trying to take down the Squid Game. Now, Ilnam also gives a hint that they might be related, as Gihan says he can't drink the milk and instead asks for chocolate. Ilnam says that his son used to do the same thing, and that he'd beat him for it. On a personality level, it's possible that the two also echo one another, as both leave their families in order to get involved with the games. Now, the vote to continue the game leads to some very, very interesting moments, and it contains buttons that are green and red. The vote starts in reverse order, which makes Gihan seem important, But really, it's down to ensure that Ilnam has the deciding vote should it come down to it. Sangwoo and Ali end up in town together, and this foreshadows their partnership in the mobile game. At this point, the 10,001 appears again, as is the amount Sangwoo gives to poor Ali in this moment. You give him a traitor. Now, in this hiatus, a number of deaths are also foreshadowed. Daksu jumped off a bridge to escape the gangsters, and he would later die after falling off the glass bridge. Ali took the money from his boss, but he was later eliminated when Sangwoo stole his marbles. Sabyuk would threaten a man with a knife to his neck, but would die the same way, bringing everything full circle from this. On top of this, Sangwoo tried to end his life in a bathtub wearing a tuxedo, and this foreshadows his final act in which he does this in the rain. Daksu's minions would turn on him and lose respect for him, just like the marble game, and it's sort of like poetry, they rhyme. Have to do one of those. Now, during the quote-unquote chance meeting with Ilnam and Gihan, Ilnam says how outside is torture, hinting that he would rather be inside enjoying his creation. Poor Gihan also meets his ex-wife, and
I didn't answer your question. That's probably why you left. I'm watching YouTube videos on Squid Game.
Which he says is the reason
The Netflix show.
Shape in the now TikTok famous Honeycomb game. Now there's also one key moment here that becomes so heartbreaking once you finish the show. Junho spends the episode following up on leads about the game and tracks down Gihan and asks him for help to find out what's going on. Gihan could have actually put an end to the game at this point, but instead he participates in it and wins, which puts him on a course to attempt to end things anyway. The players all return, and it seems like Ilnam wasn't actually knocked out, as we see him moving whilst he should be asleep. We start to see the form of our squad in episode 3, and Ilnam further hints he is powerful by saying he won't die easily, which yes, he won't. He's referred to as the old major who's been in the army all their life, and as we learn, he's been running the Squid Game for years. In another slight hint, Ilnam says that their meals are essentially what his wife would make him and their kids for lunch, which further ties the setup to him. Sangwoo's morality breakdown also starts here in the Honeycomb game, as he allowed people to basically get shapes that would leave them in very difficult positions. Pyuk continues his theme of turning on people after they help him by accepting the lighter, and 111 Doctor skills are shown for the first time as he handles the game with ease. This makes sense why he's later taken to harvest organs for the gods, and it's nice that it's set up here. The scale of this inside job is shown as one of the gods to its footage at the start of episode 4, showing there was more illegal activity inside the organization itself. Get it? Organization. Anyway, moving on. Now, some of the characters